Who's this? Okay. Bear with me. Thank you for your patience, Kiwi. Oh, there's Melissa. I was going to send her a little note. I thought she was going to be late. I guess we'll go right into, we'll skip an intro since I'm 3 minutes late. Let's see.
That would help.
What's happening?
What's happening in the deep end?
What's the crack, man? I beat somebody to it.
Yeah, you did.
Stephanie. Yeah, I'm not sure who this is, but Stephanie's right when I said that, she says, "What's the crack?"
What's the
That's
crack?
what I'm saying. What's the crack? What the hell?
What's happening?
What does that mean anyway? Like what?
It just means.
Oh, what's the crack?
Yeah, it just means what's happening. What's happening? What's the crack? What's going down?
It's like in Spanish. Spanish is "qué pasa."
Yeah, it's
on
a
the
bit
street.
like that.
On the street, it's on the street. It's all right. You just look at somebody and say, "All right."
Trust the Irish to put.
So what's
that spin
happening,
on it.
man? I know. I know you've spoken to Morgan, your sister, over here like 3 times in the last 10 days, and I don't know the extent of it, but I know she talks to certain sisters around the world, and they all like call each other up like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? What's this energy that just came in? So it's since the 1st of October, it's just been like super pronounced. I mean, especially since around the 10th or 11th. I guess that's when the full moon was, I think, on the 13th. But God, man, wow, what the hell's going on here? It's like I don't know. It's like some kind of cosmic game show where the universe is in your face, showing you everything about yourself and not letting you go, not letting you get away, not letting you blame it on anyone, not letting you look any other direction but at yourself. It's like the mirror of all mirrors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's been absolute godsend in my world for the last 2 weeks, because I got, as I do, popped into the middle of this well in advance so that I'm back up and vertical when it hits the collective. That's kind of the pattern and has been for a lot of the years. So yeah, she's been an absolute godsend. And yeah, do you know, I liken it to a tornado. It's the easiest way I can describe this energy. It's like a tornado, and we're being hit with everything and anything, and it's happening to clear out anything, and I mean anything now that's active in our fields that just doesn't belong there anymore, period. Last week,
I like that.
I could really feel it. I could feel myself in the center of it quite a lot. So for me, this is just my experience, and I'm really hoping that braving the elements while going through this and then showing up here, that this just helps even one person so that they know that they're not losing their shit. Because this is batshit crazy. There's no 2 ways about it. I don't care how long you've been in this arena, how long you've been an expert in this field. You have not felt this before now, ever. I don't care. Last week, what it did, it's to be awed at, and at the same time, you're going, motherfucker, just stop. It took me last week first spiritually. And it came after anything that was in my field that wasn't true anymore, and that any beliefs weren't serving me, and it took me down. And I've got a lot of faith in the things that I put my trust in, spiritual wise. And then at the very same time, I remember actually sending Morgan a message like last week on Thursday evening, where I was just sitting in my car on my dinner break from work, and the waves of love that were coming over me were ridiculous. They come out of nowhere for no reason. And they were the equivalent. They were so big and so strong. It was the equivalent of like seeing my kids for the very first time. It was that big. And I remember sending her a voice message going, this shit feels so trippy, but it's so awesome. And I got to tell somebody, because it's too surreal not to share. And that's what it's been like. It's been so big that you think you're losing your shit. This can't be real, but it is. Then Friday, Saturday, it came at me mentally and emotionally. And where last week I felt like I was in the center of the tornado, observing everything, using all the tools and techniques that I've been actively working on using for the last 2 months with the help of Morgan and other people. They didn't work. I got yanked right into the tornado, and it took me and it hammered me. It was relentless with me. It came and hit everything, every fear I had, anything that was residual from the work that I was doing. Like, I've been actively doing shadow work. I mean, I've been going looking for the shadows. Martin McNichol, my mentor, calls it shadow work on steroids. That's what I've been doing for the month of September. But it didn't work. It took me. It just took me. There's no other way to say it. And actually, Morgan was one of the people who picked up the pieces with me on Saturday, because I didn't know what to do with it. And I just made peace with it in the end. I think what I did on Saturday evening was I took my ass off to watch The Joker. Perfectly timed. A movie that literally shows you the mechanics of the mind and how it can serve you or sever you, basically.
Or have its way with you, right?
Oh yeah. And then
or
by Sunday, what?
No, I was going to say, or that's like you said at the top of the show, like, put you horizontal.
Oh my
You're vertical,
God.
and then all of a sudden,
yeah, well, it did, and it had its way on Sunday because I was fighting back with it, and by Sunday I was taken down. I've been in bed basically for the last 3 days sick, so I'm like Lazarus today. I'm back from the dead.
Oh, here we go, 3 days.
Oh, what a battle!
But that's one thing I have seen or heard or whatever. Several people in the talk about how they got sick, physically sick, in bed, can't move, and I know I've gone through that before. I haven't gone through that in quite a while, but that tells you, because everybody goes through it differently, but that tells you one thing about that is that type of thing, when it happens physically and runs through your body, it's a very deep transformation. You're processing a lot at a quick pace and a lot of volume to it. So that's a good thing. And the fact that you can laugh about it is a good thing. And I love what you said too, but I don't care who you are, how long you've been on this trip, and I look at, like, okay, so like Amanda Lawrence, our sister, or Jason Estes, or Pars Kate, or there's a Broder. There's a lot of people out there that have been putting this, the climate, or the forecast, or what's occurring. Morgan is the same, and that have been putting this stuff out there, and and they still go back to, they can still be very human, or whatever you want to call it. It can still be a very non-multi-dimensional experience, because it's all being put right in your face at this gut level, at the ground level, boots on the ground level,
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. And to me, it's so impactful now and so present now that you don't even have to read anybody's stuff. You can just, like, I know this is going on, I need all my attention here. It's not like, it's good to get validation after you go through it and say, oh my God, I'm not the only one. But man, it's just like right there in your face. I don't know if that's how it's been for you, but that's what it seems like to me. It's like everything is kept right here. You learn to project less. You learn to not even talk and just stay with it until you can kind of get your arms around it and you're not horizontal anymore.
Yeah. I've been very silent in the last couple of weeks, to the point where I was actually worried about showing up today, because I didn't have words. I literally didn't have words, and I really had to root for them. I had to try and find them, because this is so big, but it happens from all angles for people, and they might not even be aware that this is happening. Like, it doesn't matter how you perceive another person to be, how advanced you perceive them to be, how much they appear to have their shit together. Everybody's having to bring it back to basics now. and the absolute simplistic things have been my saving grace over the last, month. The beginning of the month, I took myself to Portugal on a retreat that was hosted by Martin McNichol and the rest of the New Earth Mystery School crew. So that was one full week of intense shadow work. I literally got back for a breather and then went on a Mediterranean cruise with my mum for a week. So you can imagine what happens when you decide to. You're laughing. I'm laughing now.
I don't know. I don't know about England or the UK, but we have a saying over here where you go from the frying pan into the fire.
Well, I was in an inferno. And you know what though? I can see it now. You know, it was incredible what went on. Incredible. And I have got to say my mother is a phenomenal woman, because she wasn't even aware what she signed up for when the two of us took off. It was an incredible process where I literally placed myself, as did my mum, without her realizing what she was doing. I knew what was happening for me, on a boat in the middle of the ocean, or in the middle of the sea, where neither of us could escape each other. And Morgan talks about mirror work all the time, and how our family, our partners, our children, our friends are the closest mirrors to us of us, showing us all of the aspects of ourselves that we either love or loathe. So again, inferno, because at the same time as I was able to, from the work I was doing, observe triggers, the second they would kick off, what to do with them, the tools and techniques that I've been using with the help of Morgan, as I said, to clear the issues, take accountability and responsibility for the triggers as they arise, counteract them with the opposite, so that you're neutralizing the situation, bringing it back to balance, bringing it back to zero. But it was nonstop. It was nonstop. And so what I could actually see from that week with my mum was everything about myself that I had actively been working over the last 10 years plus to heal within myself play out in real time. And the most important thing in it was how I chose to respond, not react. Also, the last time I spent any time with this woman one-on-one was when I was in the hospital with her. That was like 40 odd years ago. So
what?
Yeah.
You're talking about your mother. You mean last time you spent time with her, like no, I mean like you spent time with her, like
no, I mean just the two of us. Just me and her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So because, well, I mean, life takes over. You've got other children. I've got 2 sisters and a brother, and then we've never done this. We've never done this. Myself and my family paid for my mum to go on the cruise. So this was majorly out of her comfort zone for her. So it would bring up all of her stuff as well as my stuff coming up for me. And Jesus, there was some epic memories made for sure. But there was some times when you were in the very middle of a storm and you know that you can't react from the same old way of living or being and doing, because you can't. It's just not viable anymore. It's the same as what this energy now is bringing up for people. Anything that's not in alignment, anything with who you are now, a person, a situation, a thing, it's been ripped away. So for me, that was a big learning curve. Major, in fact.
Well, you know, well, hell yeah. You chose it. You designed it.
Yeah, I did.
Way.
Most people manage Christmas dinner. I choose a week in the sea.
Yeah, a week in the what? There's a lot of words that start with S. You could call it that. But you know what's interesting too is that it's not, we think about shadow, or, things we're unconscious of, or, things that we're not integrated with, or whatever you want to call it, as being all these really big issues, like,
Mm.
mother wounds, father wounds, ex-spouse wounds. I mean, and they are there. Those are the big dominoes. But to me, what's cool is that, like, when, this is because I've been hanging around her for so
Mhm.
long, and most of this isn't even talked about anymore, hardly. We do talk about things every day in regard to what's happening with us and with the collective and so on. But it's like it becomes like a moment by moment conscious, conscious living, or conscious thought process, or maybe that's, for lack of a better way of putting it, maybe that's the physicality of being 5D, or being a new earth frequency, is just being conscious
Mm.
and overriding the old programs, because it's in the smallest details.
Yeah.
It's in the little things that, when you live with someone that kind of bug you.
Mm.
It's with the big things that bug you. And at the end of the day, it's the same process. It's not about, oh my God, this is happening to me, or that person did this to me, or whatever the case is. It's actually my choice. And I was unconscious of the choice, that I have had this loop of experience in my experience. And then you say, oh, wait a minute, I'm the one that's having this merry-go-round come back around, show its face again, show its face again, show its face again. And then you make that decision, and you clear it through, like, the tools you're talking about and that she uses. But yeah, it's it's getting faster and faster and faster. I guess what I'm saying is, it's not just big things, it's little things.
Mm.
You start to notice how these little subtleties are in your field so deeply, that we never, how could we see all this
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
How
No,
could
it's
we?
huge.
So
It's huge. It's the big things, the big things, like you said, the ones that really knock you out come when we're not paying attention. And they're the big deal breakers, like in my own case, like divorce, or the death of my dad, or whatever it might be for other people. What I realized on the trip was, for when I dealt with all of the major things that took me to a point of, okay, we need to sort out things from the inside, and I'm working on that actively all the time. What this trip showed me was, like you just said, it's a series of all of the little things, the tiny things, that if you don't tackle and own, they're going to repeat, and you're going to stay on this hamster wheel, and you are going to be the source of your own suffering. And how will you know? Because life outside of you will continue to be chaotic. That's what this energy really replicates at the moment. It's your choice now to choose between the calm and the chaos, because there is that center point. If you can just hold the line and maintain your own vibration, maintain your own alignment, there is no time now. You're out of time if you think that you can hold your own and hold somebody else, because both of you will go under.
yeah, yeah,
There's
that's
no
right.
two ways about that. And the way to do this is to actively look around you in your life right now. Look around you and see what, from a mental, emotional context, what old stories, what beliefs, what old thought processes, and what situations keep repeating now. This is your choice. It's your choice what time, energy, and presence you are continuing to give to these things now. And anybody who's watching this show, you're doing the work. And if you're in a place now, which I was a couple of weeks back, going, God damn it, I got so pissed. I'm like, I'm doing the goddamn work. I'm doing it on a daily basis. My actions are in alignment. Why do these things have to keep repeating? And it was because I was choosing the story. So if you think about it this way, none of the stories are real. But you can't get to a place where you can see this for what it is without doing the inner work. And I'm talking the tiny bits and pieces. The things like, give you an example, anxiety. Anxiety is the story I'm gonna tap into, because a lot of people are feeling the physical overwhelm. I can't breathe. I can't cope with this. This is too much. It's too big. They're feeling it here. They're feeling it everywhere. And so before, anxiety was a big part in my world, where when I couldn't cope, this would kick in, right? Now, what I've learned to do is get intimate with anxiety. Choose my words carefully. I don't suffer from anxiety, which is something I would have said before. Now I'm getting intimate with it, because when it hits my body, what is it trying to do for me? Well, it's trying to slow me down. It's trying to stop me. It's trying to communicate with me. It's me trying to communicate with me. It's not anything outside of me. Anxiety is me. What does anxiety mean to me? Melissa, you can't do this. You can't go onto this show at Todd Medina. You're going to make an arse of yourself. Who's going to listen to you anyway? What have you got to say? Who do you think you are? He's going to think you're shit anyway. No matter what it shows up, like that, for example. Okay. Now, my inner asshole serves that, believes that fully. My inner asshole is an absolute advocate for that story and goes, don't do it, cancel, go back to bed, you're sick. It's okay, don't show up, right? My soul, my heart, the bigger piece in me, who does not want just one other person to feel like they're alone out there today, who doesn't want one other person to feel like they can't do this because they can, is going, no, we're showing up. We're going to press play. We're going to show up. We're going to do this. We're just going to talk. We're just going to have a conversation. It's just Todd Medina. It's just another person. It's just the two of you guys. And all of a sudden, I have emotionally self-regulated, ask the others to stand down, because they're operating, they being my inner asshole self and anxiety, are both operating from the story of trauma from before, or in this case, multiple stories built on top of each other. Those stories have the experience of all of the things that my fears just spoke to me about, all of those things that my inner asshole is trying to guard me and protect me from. But when you silence your mind by doing all of the small things, you drop out of your head and into your heart, and you ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want to experience? What do you want to do now? And honor that. Instead of getting pissed off at the other person or the other situation, handing your power over, what you're doing is you're learning to not just emotionally self-regulate, but communicate with the inner child version of yourself who's been through the trauma, and ask them, what do they need? You're communicating with the future version of yourself who's got their shit together, who's encouraging you to keep coming, keep moving forward. And you're taking it back into the present version of yourself, the only one in the now moment who has the capacity to do anything for you. Because action is the language of this reality. I'm not sure if that even made sense.
Did you just morph into Morgan? Did you just morph into Morgan?
I love her.
Like I've heard that. I've heard that verbatim for like 4 years. So there's about 3 things that you brought up that I think are important to restate, to just to go over again. One is, I think this is the biggest thing for me now. I said it this morning on the little radio show, and that is taking the leap. A lot of times we think about taking the leap, leaving my job, leaving this relationship, but taking the leap is, going to a retreat for a week and then jumping into the fire with your mom. Taking the leap is being, is like what you said this morning, and I can relate to that because I get up in the morning and before, the shows start, I want to do a radio show. But there's a certain energy level that you got to hit. And there's nothing worse than jumping on by yourself and the energy's not there, but you just keep going. I just keep going. And then you don't even go back and look at it. You jump, you take that leap. And I think that energy is both not just in like life-changing, typical or conventional life-changing or stereotypical life-changing events like, leaving a relationship or so on, but it's also that same energy jumping into this this creation, transformative reprogramming goo energy, whatever, and jumping in because you really don't know, you really don't know what it looks like and feels like on the other side, but you got to go into it, dive into it and start paddling.
Yeah.
So it's these little things. But the other thing you bring up too, which I think is extremely important, is the subtleties. In other words, it's not always what we say, that the habitual things, the behavioral patterns that we have in what we say, but it's what we do, right? It's like why do I do this? Why do I do that? So many things we do, it's just like second nature. And this is all those stories that you're talking about, where they just blind us to these things. A lot of it, for instance, with the way we react to family, be it a mother, a father, brother, sister, an ex, whatever the case is. Before we even go into that arena, we start to get this certain physiology start happening, and this constriction of muscles and whatever the case is. And these are the same type of signals, that usually come in like, oh, wow, that I don't feel too good about that, or that triggered me, or whatever the case is. But yeah, so I think that for me is a big deal, including, and I've learned this hanging around with her, is like your space, your space. If your space is organized and clear, I don't mean like at an OCD level, but just everything is an energy being expressed, whether it's words you're speaking, whether it's how you approach someone that you're not always comfortable with, whether it's your environment. I mean, there's just so many ways in the now moment that we can clear. And that's one thing that I picked up from her too, is, like we might go into a new space and, and the energy hits or whatever, and we just both start doing our own thing, like, she might start cleaning or cooking, or I might start doing whatever, but those things too, I found, hanging out with her are really good ways of, including watching Outlander, or watching Game of Thrones. Like sometimes you just want to go into this other mode of processing. So, but yeah, I think the big one for me is taking those leaps. And that's what you're doing. You could have spent the last 3 weeks chilling out, but yeah,
But I
and I
think
think it's a great sign too that you,
to go back to that, I think this is one of the reasons why people are flipping out right now, is because the days of being mind-led are done and heart-led are here. And people are literally bucking underneath that, because our minds have been so in control, but have literally gotten us nowhere. Because if you do anything without heart, then you're only half-assed doing it. Like if you're doing something, anything where you're saying yes to someone else or something else and no to you, your heart's not in it and your whole being knows. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, now more than ever, you have to honor yourself. You have to take ownership of the choices you make. You have to make conscious choices. It's not ours to figure out how anything is going to work out anymore. It's not. It never was. We thought we had some sort of control on how we were going to, sort shit. It's not. Faith and trust in yourself now more than ever, following your heart. Your only job now in this energy and here moving forward, and the most important thing I could possibly stress today, the only job you got to take care of is your alignment, how you feel, your vibration. If you're doing anything that doesn't feel good, if you're doing anything in a situation, if you're around somebody and they drain the life force out of you, and it's more work and more effort to be around them, this is hard because relationships are colliding now more than ever. People can't stay in situations out of convenience anymore, because what they're doing is they're dishonoring themselves at the highest level. And being heart-led now, we feel it, and it's painful. if you're in a shitty job where your boss is an asshole, or you're literally going in there just to make ends meet, again, this is why this hamster wheel feeling, this relentless feeling just keeps coming in on people. They've no joy in their lives. And if by doing one thing, you manage to light yourself up and get some momentum behind that in the shape and form of love and joy, rather than doing something for the sake of doing something, being heart-led instead of mind-led. And you've got a lot of people doing that shit. What's going to happen? I activate you, you activate the next person. They turn around and say, oh my God, look at Melissa Deehan. She's on with Todd Medina now. Oh my God, I'd love to do that. Well, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you contacting him? Why aren't you showing up on the show? If you've got something to say, say it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back again to like what you said about, however you put that. I should know because I hear it a lot, but that's, if you do something and it just doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm getting at, these subtleties. Now, I'm not picking on your mom or my mom or anybody's mom, but we'll just use that as an example because most people can identify with that. We often forget that our parents are just people. They just happen to be our parents. We put different standards on them, and that was part of the conditioning. But so let's say that, for instance, every 2 weeks for the last 15 years, I sit down and have lunch with my mother. And at that lunch, certain things happen. Let's just say the whole thing was built on her terms. Okay. Which really, coming from my perspective, that would be the way, and maybe even from that other person's perspective, that's the way they see it. But the point is, they're not on her terms. They're on my terms. I have said, okay. I've said, okay, I'm going to allow you to serve me this every other Sunday. No, I don't like that food or that conversation or the fact that you talk about people or talk about me or whatever the friction is, whatever it is that makes me feel, but that's not that other person's decision.
No.
It doesn't matter where it originates from. It's energy coming at me. Where the origination is important is for me. So I can walk in and say, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'll have lunch with you every 2 weeks, but we're not going to eat roast beef. We're going to eat cheeseburgers, whatever the case is. Or I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm doing that. I'm doing that right now. I'm doing it right now on a professional basis. Because there's some, that's another thing about this whole part of this whole phase we're in, or whatever you want to call it. This ramp up is what I think it is going into 2020, is you can't leave things undone.
No,
you can't leave the little details undone. You have to be specific and direct all the way down the line. And I don't think anybody has this figured out yet.
No.
But I think one thing that will work and lead us or help us to continue on the right trajectory, and that is to take a leap of faith and broach the subject, whatever it may be, tie up the loose ends so you have a nice, fluid, seamless experience with that person or whatever the energy, the objective of the energy is. So I think it's like, why do we do the things that we do? This is the kind of self-examination that's come to the surface that you're talking about. And then therefore brings up like you said, you have a choice, brings up the choice, because that's really where it all comes down to.
1,000,000%. I couldn't agree more. Prime example of that, I am my person, my mum is hers. I'm operating from my vantage point in life. She's operating from hers. We respect each other's places. We're in Ancona in Italy, in a church, and all I wanted to do was sing. All I wanted to do was tone. The acoustics in the church were phenomenal. And she said to me, Melissa, you can't sing. You're crazy. You can't do that. Now, I'm there going, literally, yeah, I can do whatever I want to do. So pause that situation. To sing and tone in the church was what I really wanted to do. From my mom's perspective, you can't do that because that's her perspective in life. And what I could have done there was gone, oh, do you know what? She's right. and then be pissed because I didn't do it, or then be pissed off for the afternoon at her because it was easy for me in that moment to blame her because of the limitations that she had from her perspective. Or I could have fixed her up in a coffee shop at the bottom of the church, gone back up, pressed record on my phone and sang, which is what I did. That's a tiny example, but it's a prime example of what I'm talking about. She's not wrong for saying what she said, and I'm not wrong for wanting what I want. But if I don't honor myself, then I'm the one who's, excuse my language, fucking myself over and robbing myself of the experiences. Like if I want to do it now, if I want to do it right now, if I want to turn around and say to you, Todd Medina, I want to sing, right? But if I don't communicate that to you, how are you supposed to know?
Go ahead and do it.
But to me, it was a big deal then because I'd never done that before. I'd never done that. I'm only starting to use my actual voice now over the last 2 months, as in where toning helps me to get stuff out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you know, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, there was a lag. Go ahead.
No, you're cool. So all I'm trying to say is to anybody watching, just stop getting involved in the story that there's chaos outside of you. There's not. Stop giving your time, energy, and presence to things that it's easier to blame other situations, people, and things on. Own your shit. Like seriously, I know I've said this before and I've done work around this, but this is all on a whole other level, because what you're allowing is what's been continuing and will continue if you don't sort it from the inside. And what that is your alignment. Stop doing shit that drains you and start doing stuff that lights you up. Stop spending time around people who take the life force from you. I don't care who they are. I have had to say goodbye to a number of people in my world, and it's nearly killed me because I love those fuckers. However, when situations were being one-sided and not being reciprocated, or whatever that might look like, again, it was just taken from me. So I just said I'm done with this stuff. Joys of parenthood here. Yes, your biggest fan is here, Todd. Sean.
Well, let me see him. I've never met him.
Come here for 1 minute. This will be like the highlight of his day. Come around this way, buddy. Hang on 2 seconds.
Sean. His name is Sean.
You can say hi.
Hey, Sean, what's going on? What's the crack, man? What's going on, Sean?
Out the video I sent to Morgan earlier on of him copying your moves. He's keeping warm here. It's freezing in Ireland.
He was. She didn't show me that. Can you demonstrate? Can you demonstrate now? Can you?
Nice shy now.
Demonstrate it. Hey, would you like to do a show sometime? Would you like to do a show sometime? Yeah, if you would, let me know. What a beautiful kid. What a beautiful kid. Yeah.
One of the wisest kids I know. Look, see, we're all at it.
I know, man. Like these kids, like, you know, we were talking about it on a show the other day. It's like I don't think they can even explain it. They can't explain it. You know what I mean? They just do. They just have this certain way of doing what they do. Like I always look at it this way. Like you're a little kid, they put you in a room of toys and you move to the toys and you go through them and you play with the ones you like and you don't play with the ones you don't like. That's the kind of energy I see with these kids. If he would like to do a show sometime, I'd love to.
He's literally standing beside me looking for my attention. And this is prime example. We got to be more like this.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, what I was going to say earlier when you were talking about that before he came in was it's really, you know, when you look at it, it's like, okay, so like two things. One, it's like we're a storm. We are the storm. Now we can either look at the storm as like devastation, or we can look at the storm as creation, you know, natural force, you know, just flow. And then the other thing is you got these situations like you just described, which we've all been up against. And we look at it with this perspective of, and we have to, because it's our conditioning, right or wrong. Well, like you said, the only thing, and it's not really a matter of being wrong or right, but it does work like this: to thine own self be true or not. Because if you're not, it's not going to be with ease and grace. It's the old let go or be dragged thing. But the letting go is actually allowing your own divine power and limitlessness to expand. It's like I said on the show this morning, the radio show. It's almost it's not almost, it is a blind faith. From human terms, it's a blind faith to say, I'm taking this leap. I believe I'm going to fall back blindly and know that Mother Universe is going to catch me. But the fact is that what we're doing there is not, is Mother Universe going to catch me? It's actually a leap of faith of ourselves, which is the highest form of gratitude and praise, in my opinion, that you can give the universe. Is take a leap of faith out of what? Out of the pure intention of your own consciousness, of your own pure love, taking that leap of faith, giving praise and gratitude by taking action and expanding the outer breadth of Mother Universe, to me, is the highest praise you can give the universe. And it's weird because we do that by taking faith and having higher love for ourselves. I saw a meme this morning. I don't remember exactly what it said, and I never really have these thoughts like, oh, do I love myself enough? Can I love myself more? But I saw this thing and it said something about loving people more. And I don't remember exactly how it went, and loving yourself more. But when I saw the second part, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, I like the first part, I was like, oh, I can love people more. I can always identify with that since I was a little kid. I mean, just look at something and love, love, love. And then I thought of it in myself, and I thought, yeah, I love myself. Yeah, but could I love myself more? Yeah, I could love myself more. Could I have the feeling that I have about others? Could I give the benefit of the doubt to myself? Can I not be so hard on myself? And you go into all these rabbit holes that you didn't even know existed, which is what I was getting at with what you were saying earlier, because these little patterns, the words that we speak, how we react to someone, how we've reacted to our mother for 20 years, or whatever the case is, they just come up and we don't even think about it, or the way we respond. Or somebody, I say to you, Melissa, for 10 years, I say to you, Melissa, can you get the newspaper for me? And every morning you get it. And 10 years later, one day you say, well, why do I do this every morning? I don't care to do this. He's got 2 feet. Go get your own damn newspaper. Like, that doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means like, hey, fuck off.
But right there is another reason why people are losing their shit. If you think about this, everybody's happy once I'm doing what they want me to do. And when I turn around and stop and start doing things that honor me, they're going, what is going on with her? She's changed, blah, blah, blah. And that's how it looks. Yeah. Or, why have you got to be like that? What? Speaking the truth? You're being an asshole. Or don't talk to me like that. Don't talk at me. Talk to me, no matter what it looks like. When I saw, there's a cool meme. It's like something like, I'm going to make a shite of this.
A shite?
A shite of
a
it.
Shot? A shite?
No, a shite, an actual shite. When you don't something, when you don't fit into something like when you don't fit into somebody's box anymore, don't be afraid to tell them to shove their box up their arse.
Oh yeah, that was Jason Archibald. Yeah.
There you go. Look, again, if you're operating from a place of unarmed truth, in your case, Mum, I don't want roast beef anymore. Let's have cheeseburgers. Yeah. You can't hurt somebody that you truly love if it's unarmed truth, coming from a space of unconditional love and unconditional love from yourself. You can't. And you're sending out this frequency to the universe saying, I love myself. And not only do I say I love myself, but I show myself that I love myself. And you're getting the momentum behind that. And how are you doing that? With your action. Your action. Yeah. Like I said, which is the reality of the truth of this, is the language of this reality. Because without action steps, without action to honor the self, we stay immobilized. We stay in a space of just suspension where nothing changes. Like, I could turn around and I want to do a course on drumming, but if I don't pick up the phone and make the call and pay the deposit, then it's just a thought, and I'm staying in the same loop. These are tiny things, but they're everything in the grand scheme of things. Look at where you are really wasting your time. Life is precious.
Well, what
are you doing with
I think
it?
that's part of the I think that's part of the energy too. Is like, okay, you were talking about at the top of the show, like the whole process of things coming in and seeing things and being present. Really, why do I do these things? Da, 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 da. But I think part of it is what's happening now is we can resist and override what's in our face by our own free will, but it's getting harder. That's what I'm seeing. And when you say, this is why people are freaking out right now, I think that's it, because the universe is like shaking you like by the shoulders and saying, hey man. And like, no. And then you look the universe in the eyes and it's you. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. Hang on a second. And I always go back to the same thing, for me, sometimes when I get out of sorts, like you said, it's not even real. And, when I was on the streets, and I remember about 6 months into it, I remember just getting like, the universe was like, okay, Todd, we have an announcement for you. Just understand that everything you've ever done, the whole world will know. And I'm like, the whole universe will know. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. But I really took it in, like, okay, there's nothing that I've ever done that will ever be a secret. And I was like, oh my God. So on one hand, I was like, holy shit, they're going to write massive books about the debauchery that I've involved myself with, or whatever the case is. But then when I got past the show in the ass part, I was like, well, wait a minute. How more freeing can anything be? So, and to me, it took me a long time to understand that at a deeper level, but I started to understand the more I'm myself, and this is what you're saying, this is your point, the more you can be yourself unapologetically. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to go off and go overboard a little bit in the transition, because I've done it. I've seen other people do it. That's okay, but you don't have to keep doing that. You don't have to say, hey, I'm speaking my truth and you're wrong, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm speaking my truth. This doesn't resonate. I had somebody hit me up the other day and said, did you unfriend me? And I said, yeah. I don't have to tell you why. I just like, yeah. Yes. She's like, okay, and in fact, I think she did write back and said, why did you unfriend me? And I said, because I don't resonate with you. And that was it. I'm okay. You get with to that. Say I'm not going to apologize for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I get when I go back to that day 8 years ago, is like, you know what? I mean, well, that's the reality, isn't it? We're going to be full blown telepathy. We're going to be walking down the street and pass each other, and I'm going to know everything and you're going to know everything. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, talk about alignment, when you don't have to worry about, oh my God. And you can understand that, hey, you know what? I fucked up. She fucks up just like I do. Yeah. Well, you have these thoughts like I do. You're kinky like I am, whatever our thoughts are, I mean, we all been there, we've all been there. Yeah.
Think about the amount of energy that it literally takes to hold on to something that's not meant for us, someone that's not meant for us, some situation that's not meant for us. We have better things to be spending our time, energy, and presence on now. And in order to get to them, we need to be in a state of being where ease and grace is our default mode, not, how's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? How are we going to get here? What are we going to do? Ease and grace in the being state, fueled by doing more and more and more things that light you up, allowing yourself the gift of being your authentic self and operating from the heart. And it's as simple as that for me. And, some days we wing it, some days we face plant, but every single day is an opportunity to begin again. This is a time now where our sovereignty is key. and you can be the best support to yourself with the support of others, but not in the old way of doing it where it's like, you know, hey hun, tell me all your problems. No, let's dust the person off, put them back on their feet, or be the example to them. Show up. And by simply showing up, you're giving the next person permission to do it. Like I said to Morgan more than once, how does Todd go through these storms, these energetic waves, and show up every time? But you do it because your purpose is what keeps you fired up. And it's the most important thing to you. And you know that even though you might not feel like it at the beginning, by the end of what you've done, your authentic self is literally going, thank you for doing that for me. So
yeah, that's what I mean about like this morning. Like this morning I got on, I'm like, I got to do a little pre-show broadcast, just a couple of songs and commentary, play a video clip. But and that's what I was saying, I'm trying to get to this frequency. It's kind of like connecting or communing, like where you raise your frequency to meet the frequency, and you start it, because that's what I do. I just put it in and then I push play. And then you don't have a choice. So then you're like, and what I find is that, and this is an example, I think, of energy and of reality for me anyway. So whether it's this or something else, right? That nervousness, that self-consciousness, that I'm going to show my ass, it's whatever. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier.
I still want to sing.
I mean, it's all, but exactly. That's my point. So it's like you do it. So I think what happens for me when I get to the end, which is I think what you're saying, is it, hey, I did it. You know what? Warts and all, F ups and all, I did it. So we've had 4 requests for you to sing now. So I think
I'll bet you they're all from NEMS people.
Yeah, Martin and that clan, that crew. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put some music behind you? I have all kinds of instrumentals over here.
But there, like, I mean, that's a prime example. That terrifies me. The idea of doing that right now terrifies me. My legs are like, you can't do it, Melissa, you can't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. Yeah. So what do you got cooking? Anything new? You got anything new you want to talk about before you head out the door?
No, just, I just want to say to people, just keep moving forward and just say yes to yourself at all costs. Don't worry about how it's all going to unfold. In the now moment, keep yourself there as best possible. And, we're all winging it. We really are. That's it, really. As ever, I am available on my page if anybody wants to reach out, if I can help in any way, if they want to book one-to-one sessions with me. Just hold the line. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. That's right. I like that. That's a good meme or a hashtag, is we're all winging it.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that and that's what I loved about the way we started the show out too, or even now. There's a lot of smiles, there's a lot of giggles, there's a lot of humor, and I think that's as frequency as profound as any frequency or any download we can have, is to be able to, I mean, for Christ's sake, I got to believe that our higher selves are up there laughing about how serious we take this shit sometimes. I mean, it's not the end of the world. And if we are divine and eternal, which I believe fully that we are, in the things that we are understanding that we are, then we're all friends anyway.
Yeah.
I got hit with something this morning about someone who really, and this was actually a lucid dream. but it was someone that I knew. I had this whole progression of I guess it was a way of clearing what we've been talking about. But these different people were coming in. There was a whole storyline, but there was this one guy who was a total freaking asshole. No two ways about it in the energy of this lucid dream. And so I went through this whole, dance with him, and and in the lucid dream, it's like more of intuitive, right? You're not going, okay, what, this is me. What did I don't know about myself? But when I got past it and beyond it, we like looked back at each other, and I was seeing his higher self, and he was seeing my higher self. And I saw how deep, uh, through that merging, how deep we were connected, like
Yes.
monad, like, and like, but in this life, now this was a lucid dream. In this life, that person could be someone who I am diametrically opposed to or energetically incompatible with. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we're all friends, man. We can't hurt anyone. Like you said, if we are unapologetically just being ourselves, I mean, what more could the universe ask for than
Yeah.
to totally embrace who you are, what you are, and what you're a part of? So, yeah, I like that.
When
The Melissa
when
Deehan.
you when you get rid of when you get rid of the demons, you get rid of the resistance, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Just before
That's
we
right.
finish up, just to reiterate something you've just said, pay close attention to your dreams, everybody.
Yeah.
Because in the daytime when we're awake or asleep, um, we can't hear the communication. I don't receive, communications from, say, for example, the likes of the way Amanda would with beings. I get a lot of messages in dream space, and they're very simple, very practical dreams that have very profound messages. This is no disrespect to the man, but for example, I'll give you two things that showed up last during the week, which the general information is for the collective. One showed up in the shape and form of the possibility of of getting back with my ex-husband, which obviously isn't an option. But my point is, the way it showed up in the dream was to show you that you cannot run back to anything that broke you. The old is dead. There is no going back to anything from the past. And the second dream that came up 2 nights ago, I actually had a dream, and I told him about it this evening. It was myself and Martin McNichol, and we were rock climbing, and all of the terrain was completely uneven. We didn't know where the ground beneath our feet was. There was different angles and curves and spaces, and they led us into different adventures, different spaces. So the message there is literally 1 foot in front of the other right now. Even if you don't know, even if you can't see the ground beneath your feet, just trust in each other, because he's one of the people I would trust with my life. That's why he showed up in the dream. So pay attention to your dreams. Trust the people who are around you to hold you while you move forward fearlessly now. So just to add that there as well.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show right there.
Yeah.
That is, no, because the whole thing is, if you look at, to me, what, we tried to come up with words and whatever, but I look at like love, trust, truth, soul, spirit, freedom, sovereignty. It's all the same thing. It contains much more than any one of those one words, but trust is a really big deal. And this has been a big one for me anyway. So it's like, it's not always easy for me to admit that I don't trust someone else. And there's so many degrees of that, right? There's so many degrees of that because we've been through all the conditioning. But when I can do that, I start to realize I flip it. Yeah, that's a big one for me. Is like, if I flip trust and put it on myself, and I think, well, wait a minute, hang on a second. If I don't trust that person, then what does that say?
You don't trust yourself.
And this, of course, isn't a like trust. Like, am I going to steal money from you? It's trust to the heart.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's like, can you actually even if you don't like have an ongoing verbal relationship with someone like that you've had it so much going on with, to be able to sit in that space, if at a minimum etherically pull that person up and actually sit there and look at them and actually not bullshit yourself, because you can't, and be and see them as you, see them as you, and see their nothing but their divinity, and all the other stories and shadows and stuff go away. I mean, that's an incredible energetic thing, and I actually developed that talking with Morgan when I realized over the years, I don't know if there was probably direct instruction with her, but what I found was how effective the etheric actions, etheric experiences and episodes in are just as energetic, if and just as effective as those that we might have. Oh, well, Melissa, I need to talk to you. We need to have a talk, have a come to Jesus meeting, and you could actually cover so much ground in the etheric field. So that was a big thing for me, and I use that a lot, to be honest with you. And I
I'm
find
using it
too,
every
and I
day.
did learn this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found this, and I did get this from her too. Was because I watched it,
Yes.
where you don't say anything, you just handle it up there, and handling it up there to me is you handle it and you let it go.
Yes.
Because if you go back to it, it's still, but and then and actually watch things integrate in a line with with no human words ever being said. It just worked out. Boom. Yeah,
For me,
that's a big
this
one.
work is groundbreaking. This work will completely transform your life. It is, without exception, your own internal revolution. You're the source of it. You are the end product of it. You are, this shit just lights me up because
Right.
it is unbelievable. I have managed to diffuse like that. I can only describe it as shit that's been active in my field for years, in a matter of hours, in a matter of days, where I've relentlessly, repeatedly, I'm going after the shadows because I'm so done with this shit.
You
It's
had
unbelievable.
something. You had something happen to you, and I can speak in general terms because I don't know the specifics, but I do know the general part, and I don't think there'd be any problem with it. You know me, I don't put people on the spot like I used to. But in your vocation at your job, you worked in a certain section, and that section was shit, as I understand the story. You went off and I'm just gonna, you have to fill in the blanks, but you went off and I guess you talked to Morgan and you were doing the work. It wasn't her. You were doing the work on your own, after having talked to her. But in other words, I don't know the different things that you were clearing and invocating, whether they were directly involving circumstances within that work environment or not. But I do know that you were doing a lot of clearing, and you were like a bull in a china shop, is what the
Yes.
impression that I got from her. But then you go back to work, and I think you were gone a week or two, and you go back to work and you walk in the door and they say, "Oh, by the way, we've moved you from the shit section to the best section here at work." And if you could, just before we leave, I mean, is that accurate? Do you think that the clearing had a direct relationship or a direct effect on the new section you worked in? And what are your thoughts on that? I thought it was a really cool story.
Okay, everything else, my perspective, my belief, everything outside of me is me. And 100%, as I cleared from the inside, life started to clear from the outside. I moved from one area to another. Yes. I knew I was going to be moved because there's a changeover happening. But the area that I've gone into, the amount of people that I'm working with has halved, and their how to say, the caliber of people I'm working with is calmed. It's completely different. It's a completely different environment since I've gone back to work. I used to go out on my lunch break sometimes just to listen to meditation stuff to wind down. Since I've gone back, sometimes I've gone out to my car to do something to wind me up. That's definitely I would definitely attribute that. Even more so, situations in my life with other people that kept me on the same codependent loop. All just fell away, but they fell away because I did the work on the inside, and it's nothing personal against them. So if there's people in my world who I have appear that I have fallen away from, it's simply because you don't have what I am now, as in we're not a vibrational match. So before, if I needed chaos in my life to literally get me to snap out of it or do something, take action to better myself, put myself in a better, more loving position, it would show me through hardship and suffering and pain and attachment. So I'm after working ridiculously hard, and I have no issue in saying it, to work specifically on clearing attachment and many other different things. But it has meant that the quality of my life is completely transformed in a matter of a month.
And that's what I was getting at. It's like, I guess what I was getting at was that it sounded to me like, just, and I don't pay attention a lot anyway, but I heard a little bits and pieces, but the fact that when you do this clearing, I guess it's the best way to put it, do the inner work, the shadow work, face the fears, whatever you want to call it, that it actually, I guess directly and indirectly, a result is, a byproduct is that alignment, greater awareness, and therefore alignment, comes into your life in a greater and greater presence, regardless of what you're clearing, because you're clearing shit, basically. So if you're clearing something, you're going to have more clarity. And I just thought it was a really cool story. And I think, it's important to know that sometimes we get caught up in the microcosmic thing, the event or the person. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that this method of conscious living, I guess, or conscious processing or conscious awareness creates a general alignment in your life in things that might seem unrelated to what you were clearing,
Yes.
So
and the second,
it's a good way to
navigate
this this maze that's becoming more of a straight line now.
The second you remotely step back into anything that felt like that,
you're going to know. I can't wait till we get together the next time. That's
Until
right.
then.
That's right. Yeah. And then you have soulgasms, and that's a whole nother
we won't talk about the war.
So, oh, by the way, we're watching Game of Thrones. I think we're in season 4, but I got to tell you, Outlander, through the first 3.5 seasons, I got to say Outlander's still better, man.
I know.
But Game of Thrones is pretty good. It's got some brutal shit in there, man. It's like,
well, I tell you what happens. Will I tell you what happens in the end? I'm only fucking with you.
Don't tell me anything. No. It makes me curse, but I show up every night to watch.
I can't even blame Game of Thrones for that.
Thank you for spending time. Until the next time.
Love you, love. Bye-bye.